Okay, you let everybody in. Okay. I will start that video.
ConnecTra creates opportunities for people living with disabilities by providing information, resources, and programming geared towards greater inclusion and quality of life. Check out some of the programs we offer through our online learning platform, Connect Together, including our Service Mondays, where we highlight a local organization or initiative. Wednesday Chair Yoga with Bobby Seal-Kobisky. Thursday, Adapted Fitness with Megan Williamson. Friday, Rotating Dance Classes, hosted by Janice Lawrence and Joanne Cuff. And other initiatives, including presentations by the Disabled Independent Gardeners Association's Growable program and our Perspective series. Check out our updated programs calendar on our website, ConnecTra.org, or find us on Facebook at ConnecTra Society.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to our Perspective series on navigating friendships with a disability. I hope you can hear me all right. My name is Emily, and I'm your ConnecTra program coordinator. And I'm excited to be having a conversation with Maureen DeLanderville, who is on our board here at the Disability Foundation and has been an active member of our community for a long time. We might have another panelist joining us. We will see. Otherwise, we're just going to have a really open dialogue here today. So for those of you that are watching, if you have a question, a comment, you want to ask Maureen something individually or just a question to the group, you can either type in the chat or raise your hand or speak out, and we'll unmute you, and you can just kind of chime in whenever you like. We're a small group here today, but we are being live streamed to Facebook and YouTube as well. So I'll make sure to send that link around afterwards so everyone can watch and share with their community as well. If you require closed captioning, just make sure that you enable them in Zoom. And yeah, I want to just get started with chatting with Maureen. So welcome, Maureen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for doing this, Emily.
Yeah. So Perspective series are something that we started a year ago, and we've had lots of different topics from like navigating the world of dating to navigating care aid. And this was something that came up. We tried to do this last year, but rescheduled it just on the importance of community and friendships. And I want to know a little bit about what your journey has been. If you can tell us a little bit about your story. I know you were working in real estate before your accident. And so can you just sort of tell us about your lifestyle before and your friend circles before, and then sort of a little bit about your journey?
Thank you. Well, it's certainly been a shift. When I was a realtor, I was a high producing realtor, which means in my case, total commitment to my work. And because those hours are absurd, and they are, it's friends, they narrowed down pretty quickly to mostly other realtors and their friends. So those kind of circles with other realtors. And in retrospect, and I'm certainly not blaming the people with whom I was friends, but they were shallow and they were based on partying, physical activities, a lot of sports, skydiving, skiing. I did, if I went for a bicycle ride, it would be 60K. Just anything that was physical, and a separation and a distraction from the stress of working like those kind of hours. And so the friendships were based on those kinds of interests and activities. So when I broke my neck, the friendships faded away within a year. There was hardly, with the exception of 2 women with whom I'm still friends, everyone else is long gone and were very, very quickly. So the two friends, it's been a wonderful blessing. One, in fact, now lives in Victoria, and she comes over and shares the Arts Club Theatre section. We have season tickets for the Arts Club Theatre all through 22, 23. And she comes over from Victoria, stays over, and we see a couple of plays and goes back. So that's a very, very meaningful long-term relationship that came from there. But other than that, it's pretty well nothing.
Yeah. So can you talk about sort of what that experience was like for you? Do you think that friends fell off because there wasn't a lot of common ground underneath the sort of surface activities that you were doing?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was it. And again, that was just as much my fault as their fault. We just fully participated in that kind of shallow. It satisfied what I thought were my what I saw as my needs. It was not, but it was lack of self-awareness. I'm ashamed to say, but I might have been. Yeah, this lack of self-awareness and lack of self-care, really.
Yeah. And I imagine when work is your life and something happens that would really shift your perspective in how you want to live and the people you want to keep around you,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, right?
Well, yes. And I'm from Saskatchewan, and I don't know if anybody else here is from, a lot of people are. And Saskatchewan, my friends from Saskatchewan, I'm still friends with my friends from Saskatchewan. That never changed. And they're all able-bodied people. Well, they were then. I'm now 77, and many of those friends are around the same age, and we're not nearly I'm not the only one that's not fully able anymore. Age does that too. A friend of mine just recently arrived here for a visit, and he was using a walker. So things change for all of us. But it led to I started going to a place called the Haven on Gabriel Island. It's a professional and personal development organization, very well reputed, and they have superb courses. And I spent many years, sometimes months on end there taking, I don't know how to turn my phone off.
Oh, you're fine.
Taking courses, and learned really a lot. And that's where I started to meet a whole new, different kind of people for friends. And I have over the years developed friends that I met there and made, followed subsequently, and they're still friends. And those are would be from starting about 1995. So they're long-term friends. And that was a new introduction. And it was the start of being able to see a life beyond, because I was really devastated and definitely wanted to die every day for the first number of years, wishing I had been dead instead of. But anyway, at this point now, I've switched to, I'm entirely grateful for having had that breaking my neck, because it opened up so many doors, so many new chances to meet a wider worldview of people, a whole worldview shift. And the thing about people with disabilities, we have that in common. But I have a friend not long deceased, but she was a neuropsychologist. Well, I likely wouldn't have met her if it weren't the common thing of the disability. And the same thing, people in such a range of fields. In real estate, I met a number of people, who were clients, but none of them we had good relationships, but short-term relationships. Whereas, so once the sale and they were moved in, and we'd stay distant in communication, but no real friendships developed. So this is different with the community of people with disabilities. And I also found it was my very first friend with a disability was Dave Symington. And that didn't happen until, I'm sorry, Rance, can you just Thanks. I'll get my caregiver to.
Oh yeah.
Um, sorry, where was I?
When did you meet Dave, and how did you meet Dave
Oh,
Simonton?
yeah, it would have been 1999, 2000, around that time. And that, because prior to that, I just clung to my able-bodied friends because I saw myself as an able-bodied person. I didn't want to be one of these. But then when I met Dave, that opened up that world. And nobody understands that doesn't have a disability. They can be sensitive and kind and loving and all those things, but they do not understand the shift in one's life. And so getting into the world of having relationships with people with disabilities really was a big step and a welcome step. And just, as I said, it's made me very grateful for having had this experience. I'm a better person, a better friend, a better parent, just all round.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I want to talk a little bit about, like, how did you get introduced to the Haven? Who told you about those programs? And
well, a very dear friend, a friend that lives in Victoria and with whom we're going to be going to the Arts Club Theatre's plays, or we are. And she had been talking to me about it before I broke my neck, because she had gone into that and found it so informative and enlightening. And I said, why would I do that? I'm already happy. I don't need that. And well, when I did go shortly thereafter, breaking my neck, and it opened up this whole new world. And yeah, so that's how I got introduced. It's just lucky enough to have that friend. And it's, as a result, other friends of mine went and were eternally grateful for what they learned and the benefits of many of their courses.
yeah, so it says here, a Transformational Learning Institute. So can you tell us a little bit about their approach and some of the courses that they offer?
Oh, it's been so long now, but they're very, like there were three that came along. First you learned about yourself, then you learned about others. So, and each was a month. So you'd be there staying at the institution. It's gorgeous. It's right on the water on Gabriel Island. Absolutely beautiful. They have accommodation there. You stay there and you have a couple of days off during that time, but there are courses morning, afternoon, and night available. You don't have to do all of them. And yeah, so it's a live-in experience, and large groups, often 30 or more people in each program. And so there's so much learning from others. It's not just learning from the person leading the workshops, but you've got all the group dynamics. And when someone else has an awakening and an experience, it's rare for the other participants not to have some kind of connection, to have some kind of awareness arrive as a result of what that other person has had. That's what human beings are like. We have commonalities that are not the same, but there's a common basis and there's a similar learning available. So it's deep and broad.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. Also, energetically, if somebody shifts around you, it's hard not to feel that. Yeah.
Well, to feel it and to have a relationship where that relates to my own experience in one way or another.
Yeah.
Not the same, but with the similar energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for what, because I know I feel fortunate to have heard some of your story before when we did some leadership training together with the Disability Foundation last year. And I know you had talked about that being a long period of time where you really didn't want to be around anymore. You talked about it being almost a decade.
Yeah.
So can I ask, was there sort of like a major thing that happened shift-wise? Like what pulled you out of that? Was it really meeting Dave?
No. The start was definitely the Haven. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the learning to get inside myself and to see what was still the same, what was unchanged, what had been undeveloped and unlooked at. I'm not that articulate. I haven't thought this through, but spontaneously, it just, yeah, that was definitely the beginning. The meeting Dave opened up the community of people with disabilities, others, and therefore having a broad connection, a connection with a broad community, these people that I likely wouldn't otherwise have met, and had the opportunity to get to know enough to develop a friendship. So that came. But as far as the personal growth and self-awareness and beginnings of self-acceptance, it definitely was through those courses at the Haven.
Yeah, I imagine, first of all, how did you get introduced to Dave?
Well, how do you not get introduced to Dave would be a better question.
Totally, in this
I don't
community
know.
for
There's
sure.
something about that man that, yeah, he's just there. Oh, I know, it would be through the sailing. The first I had, I'd had until 1990, he's still my friend anyway. He would be my partner, and we had a little sailboat, and I'd spent lots of times on boats and sailing and loved it. And so the first thing I did was sign up for the DSA and experience that, and that's where I met him. And
Amazing.
He does put lots of effort into relating to people. And I lived in North Delta. He came out to have dinner there one time, and things like that. So he's not a man that lets go. Once you have a friendship with him, you've got one. Don't even think you're going to let it go, because it's not going to be neglected. He doesn't let that happen. I hope he's would like what I'm saying. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's such a skill to be able to like nurture and cultivate friendships, and you know, to be able to keep in touch with people and keep relating and growing together, because you do shift and change over the years, and the friends that have seen you go through lots of changes and still are with you are really special.
Yes, and he makes those efforts. Yeah, I do too. I found that, I spend a lot of my time organizing social activities. Sometimes I get tired of it because it's so difficult sometimes, and I just go do things by myself. It's easier, but then lots of other times it's worth it. And if I've done or seen something that I think was really valuable, then I want to share it with others that I care about. So it's effort goes into it, and it's well worth it. It's money well spent.
Yeah.
Time and effort well spent.
Relationships are effort for sure. They need to be maintained. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had kind of said in earlier that you kind of regretted when you were in real estate not having more of a sort of rounder group of friends, or putting more time and effort into cultivating those relationships. So what's kind of shifted for you perspective wise since before and after your accident, and the type of people that you find you're attracting now and want to maintain relationships with?
Oh, just a deeper relationships based on values and interests. Yes, as opposed to what sport you like or what days you get off, things like that. And if I'm attracted to you or not. I'm afraid I was quite into that.
The world of real estate. Yes.
Yeah, well, that was my world of real estate. And I also did very well. I made, fortunately, lots of money. That's how I'm still supporting myself. So,
yeah. And I mean, it's a very self-driven career, right? Too. You're building your own hours, and you're really lobbying for yourself to get clients. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So in retrospect, you would have had a better work-life balance.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I didn't have any work-life imbalance. It
Wow.
was work, and what it was left over. I remember one time I was holding a dinner party. All my guests were there. I wasn't home yet, and I hadn't even bought the food yet. So I did. I bought it. I got home, and with my partner, we made it, but it wasn't impressive. They didn't
Right.
feel valued, those friends, as well they might not have.
Yeah. Right. So you were just very go, go, go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
Well,
talk a bit?
prioritizing the client as opposed to my friends and family is hardly a wise choice. I cannot, it wasn't, and I do regret that. But
I hear you. As a musician and somebody that has to very much self-advocate for their self and is their business, for years I used to come home and just have like 12 gigs in 14 days and tell people to come see me on my set breaks. And the pandemic really made me stop and think about what was important and like have such stronger relationships now.
isn't that something? So that was the result of COVID.
Oh yeah, because my job disappeared. I used to sing on stage for a living.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't
So
know that, Emily.
yeah, I used to
Do
live in
you do it?
Nashville.
Do you do it as a hobby now?
I still did very much do it as a career, but in more the songwriting realm. But just the things that can shift perspective wise, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah,
just really made me have deeper connections with those around me. Yeah.
yeah.
I want to touch a little bit on what you said earlier when you had just had your accident and you didn't want to see yourself as having a disability. So you still very much wanted to have your able-bodied friends. When did that shift for you?
Well, it certainly wasn't one day it was this way and one day I was the other. That major part of that shift would have been when I was introduced to the world of people with disabilities through Dave. That would have been something that switched on my meeting him and the circle of friends and people and activities that are available to that. Another early activity in which I participated was the BC Moss and the hiking, which was I'll still remember the very first hike. And we went, I don't even think they have that anymore, but we went on the trail rider through trails in the forest that were unbelievably, I mean, it would have been a challenge if I'd been able-bodied. And we went through there on the trail rider. It was just an eye-opener, and then coming out at Spanish Banks. And I mean, it was incredible. And
so
yeah.
I'm asking Kaiser because I'm a little limited with my computer right now because I'm on my phone in this coffee shop, but I'm asking Kaiser to link the ASABC, the Sailing Association, and BC Moss in the chat because they are amazing programs. We do still have trail riders, and that all happens in our summer.
And I still go on them every summer.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, all the other, anyway, I'm not too sure how much, but, Digga, I've been gardening now for, I think, 3 years, which has been a wonderful summer activity. That's fabulous.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I think community is so important.
Yes.
And right, in any sort of realm. And so when you can find community and realize, that there are people out there that relate and want to get to know you just the way you are, it's a huge motivator.
It is. And one of my first volunteers, she's no longer here. She went back to Vietnam. But I had this beautiful little Vietnamese gardener volunteer. Well, I don't have a lot of opportunity to meet Vietnamese people, but here was this wonderful volunteer. So it was just broadening in so many ways, much beyond my learning lots from her about gardening, but about her culture and, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about how your life looks now And what were some of the things that helped you get to this point of being really grateful towards all the things that have happened?
Well, right now, I'm just having such fun with quote unquote friendships, in that these are not conventional friendships, but I've always been up. I mean, my natural self is optimistic, happy. I smile a lot, and I've just been working on that because obviously I'm not independent. Nobody's independent. We just have that fantasy, but I can considerably less. But there's many things I want to do that I couldn't do if I only could count on my caregivers. There just isn't enough time and enough scope, and I can't afford caregivers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So for instance, yesterday I wanted to go to wherever I was going, something or other. My caregiver was only here till noon. So I had her put my cape on the wheelchair ready, and I had everything ready that I could. And when the time came to go, because I'm by myself and I can't get it on, I just go outside. And one of the reasons I love where I live is I'm half a block from the bus stop for 99. And despite that, it's a walking neighborhood, which I love that too. And I just go out, and the first helpful person that I see, I ask them if they'd put my cape on, and it's fairly simple. They just have to lift it over my head and do a couple of things. But you can't not have a little bit of a relationship with that person if you really ask their name and look at them, really try to connect. And they are confused at first. That occasionally people think I'm begging and just leave, which is most mortifying. But anyway, that doesn't happen very often. And sometimes they can't speak English, which presents a problem. But anyway, it's just so frequent. That happens to me many times a week. Same thing when I'm coming home. I can't manage the outside fob to get into the building with my winter capes on. So I just ask somebody on the street to take it off. It might be pouring rain, but I only have a block to go. Always, there's always somebody within a block. And so there's that. There's I'll need something on the bus to reach whatever. And I ask, could you help me get this off my wrist or whatever? And again, you just have, and you can, people are very responsive. They like helping. People love to help. You just really giving them the opportunity. It's a little gift for me, and it's a little gift for them. And bus drivers, I've really developed a relationship with the bus drivers. I'm hi when we come on, and maybe I've seen them before and say, how are you today? And what's this, whatever, a little quick as you get in. And then when I leave, and I say goodbye, thank you. And then after I'm off the ramp, turn back and say, see you next time. Well, I've got lots of bus drivers that I'm friends with. It's not really.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's not really a friendship, but boy, it's rewarding. And next time you see them, and sure enough, it's like your buddy.
Yeah. I love, that was really beautiful how you put it, that it's like a little gift from you. And
well, a gift from me and from them.
People do want to help.
Oh yeah, and they respond. So some don't, and I always think, oh boy, they must be sad. They must be having a hard life,
Yeah.
And similarly, to my garden, to get into my garden, there's a little latch that I can't do that. So I don't know how many people I have caught going up and down Granville Street to ask to open that and let me in. Well, I've met people that have come in, they want to see, oh, isn't this marvelous? How do you do this? And it's just, again, and sometimes they'll say, oh, hi, Maureen, because they'll remember from some other time. And I have something called prosthagmia or something or other that I can't even, I don't remember names, and I can't even recognize his faces very well. But I know if they say, hi, Maureen, we've done something before. And so we have a friendly little connection. So there's little bits of friendship out there every time you go out the door, potentially.
I love that. There's a little bit of friendships everywhere. That's so beautiful. I think we forget sometimes that like it's like human nature. We're all craving connection. We all want to connect. And I think if you can leave your house thinking that every person you pass on the street is just an opportunity for connection, whether it's a smile or eye contact or whatever, you know, it's a really beautiful way to live your life. And I think when you're that open to meeting new people, you give off an energy that's really attractive, you know, because it's very open and friendly.
Yeah. On the bus, I if I see some, oh, I really like your coat, or oh, I really like your hair, or something else. And I mean, and have people done that, have people that have come up to me and said reference to something or other about it. And everybody's happy when you do that. You know, oh, thank you. You feel so good and so seen. Like, that's another thing. As we get older, we do become invisible. It's absolutely unbelievable. We are simply not seen. And that's why I think about 4 years ago, I put this blue in my hair because it says I'm not dead yet. And it works. I get compliments from young people lots of the time, men and women. And it's not the compliments I'm seeking, it's the being seen. I just want not to have disappeared from this earth before I do disappear from this earth. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that is super important that's what people want as well, to be seen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So along your journey, I assume aside from good friendships, I'm not sure if you went through some counseling or any programs, but what's like really helped you emotionally get to such a wonderful place that you're in now?
Well, there are those courses at the Haven for sure. And I did have a psychotherapist that I spent a lot of time with in those early years. I haven't, there's another area of my life or my youngest daughter just died this month last year, and there's been lots of therapy before she died and stuff like that, but that's on a different track, and I don't really want to go into that so much. But
I'm so sorry, Maureen. Sending condolences to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks. But yeah, so that, yeah, but other than that, no. It's the quality of the friends. Oh, I know. I have for years and years and years, I've been part of a dream group, and we see dreams as the subconscious informing the conscious. And I have for all those years, like 12, 13, 15, I don't know how many years, recorded my dreams, and we get together usually about once a month, and we used to do 2 dreams each session, but now we only do 1. But it doesn't matter, because it's like the therapy when it's called dream projection. And we say, if that were my dream, this is what it would mean to me. And then often if it's either the dreamer says, oh yeah, that's it, and you because you have a palpable felt sense, something in your body shifts, and you know that you've hit or something for you, or you haven't. But either way, there's information for both the dreamer and the person who's relating to this dreamer, or you know, the person within the group who's projecting onto the dreamer. So that's another ongoing, and it has extreme therapeutic value of self-awareness, I guess. And yeah, just have our subconscious is very, very wise. And my conscious is not nearly so wise, but it's getting wisened up gradually. over
That's
the
so
years.
interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
That's see, there's so many different ways to connect. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And sorry,
No, go ahead.
the there are so many ways. I had this couple of these friends from, actually it's really interesting. This woman was married after I divorced and left my husband. Within about a year or so, the father of my 4 children left. He got involved with this woman, and I lasted 16, she lasted 12 years with him, but we have become such close friends, she and I. So it's like being a sister, and she knows my children well because 2 of them lived with them for part of the time they were together. So anyway, she's part of that dream group. And when they came over for New Year's, they came over and brought over a New Year's Day dinner. Oh, they're phenomenal cooks to top it off. Anyway, they did read tarot. They're deep into reading tarot cards, and sure enough, they read mine, and I had messages, and I'm directed to do some things that I don't want to do, but that it said it's important that I do them, so I'm doing them because that's again an avenue to touch with the subconscious. It's just another avenue, and many people wouldn't. Anyway, it doesn't matter for me. That's how it works.
Yeah. It sounds like would you call that a part of your relationship with spirituality?
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So has that been a big part of your life before the accident as well?
No. I know that's subsequent, and it just, I can't pin down where it began. I mean, it became enormous when Danielle died last year. That relationship to spirit and the recognition of something, I cannot define it. But yes, definitely spirituality, because I don't know what I believe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know what I don't believe.
Uh-huh.
One thing is there's somebody up there, man, making my decisions or whatever. Sorry, but there's not.
Yeah.
Not.
I think belief in something, anything, whatever you want to call it, beyond us is important. And
Well, it certainly can provide comfort and
can provide comfort. Yes, for sure. I think also just gives us a bigger lens sometimes that we're all one and human, and maybe a bit more willing to talk to people on the bus, Well,
I've had a meditation practice for forever, and it grows every year. It expands, it becomes deeper and more rewarding, and it's an incredibly useful tool to when under my doctor's orders, we monitor my blood pressure on a regular basis, and it's remarkable. If we take my blood pressure after I've meditated, it's just so low. You'd think I was a 12-year-old. It's just amazing. Or a very, very contented 6-year-old. Whatever.
So much research on that and what it does for our nervous system, and that's fantastic.
And peace of mind and separation from putting things in perspective. Yes,
a little separation from our thoughts too.
Yeah,
I could talk to you about spirituality forever, but we won't go.
Well, maybe we'll have another time.
Yeah, totally. But I would love to, if you have any sort of imparting advice, especially if somebody in the community that is maybe recently had a spinal cord injury or is going through this shift of not feeling like they can really find a community or connect to people on a deeper level. What sort of advice would you have for them when trying to get out of their comfort zone and making friends?
Well, just let me just look. I made a note here, and there's something I just want to see. Just
Take
give
your
me
time. Yes.
this is just a one-liner, but for your friendships to thrive, focus on your listening skills, compassion, and communication. So that I think that there's a lot worded in that.
Yeah.
It's getting outside of self. It's listening and hearing what the other is saying. Because in that, my experience is there's the same thing inside of oneself, and finding those two things that are in common with others. Yes, that having compassion for self. It's not just compassion for other. Having compassion for self. I still struggle with that one. That is a difficult one. But learning to have compassion for oneself without getting into the place where only not being here is the answer. And I went there, and I'm there now with having lost my daughter. But we can have compassion for ourselves and still be compassionate with others. And I think it's the with others that helps us. And that's not all. Ask the question again specifically, please.
So any advice that you have when people are maybe struggling to find like their people, their community, the people that are going to be their deeper forever friends? What are sort of some things that you look for in that? Yeah.
Well, for me, getting involved in activities that appeal to you. For me, before I broke my neck, everything was sports. And then it moved into, well, I still do those, sailing and some of those, and horseback riding was a big thing for me. I could go into that separately if we need to, or want to. But and so that you're meeting people with similar interests, and from there you will, since these activities will be with people with disabilities, you will be exposed to people at different levels of their acceptance or lack thereof of the situation, and you'll be able to find people of similar ilk that feel as you do, or that have felt as you do, and therefore understand really well, and you can find your community within that group. That I just think following up on your interests is a good way. And if you can find a place where you can get some therapy. For instance, the Haven is very expensive now. It was expensive then, but way more. But they have scholarships. They have programs available for people that can't afford. And that is often people with disabilities, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know if Kazer, if you're able to link the Haven in the chat, if you can find the Haven in Gabriola. That's all great advice. I do think one thing that keeps coming to mind is that there had to be a great deal of acceptance before I feel like you could have moved forward, right? Acceptance in that I don't fit in with these people anymore because we don't have more under the surface connections. Like, it's hard to let go of an older version of yourself.
It is, but one thing about the breaking of my neck is I didn't have any choice. I mean, that was thrown in my face. Yeah, I couldn't not see it, I think.
Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, even with the getting to a point where you can go out and ask for help from strangers on the street, and you think of it as a opportunity for connection, as opposed to, I think, especially as a woman, not wanting to be a burden.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So-
not at all. You
Good.
tried a few times and you're making the other people happy. You're adding to the joy of their day and their life. So ask away.
I love that.
Be appreciative, relate to them. Don't, if you're just grumpy and entitled, well, you'll get the same thing back. But
Yeah.
if you are truly going to find joy in this and yeah, look on it as a fun little thing that you get to do that the able-bodied person down the street would look like a fool doing. So
For sure. Yes. I think big takeaways from this are, to look at everything as an opportunity for connection. You never know who you're going to meet when you say hi in an elevator. And I
yeah,
think it's just kind of a beautiful way to look at the world. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I always really enjoy talking to you. And yeah, I just think you're wonderful and such a valuable part of our community. So thank you for being here.
thank you, Emily. And let's have a coffee sometime, okay?
I would love that. Yes.
Okay. We'll
Okay.
plan.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Kaiser. And
Thank
thanks to all
you.
of our participants. Yes, we will see you online.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, Maureen. Thank you.
Bye-bye.